Renewal by Anderson, bringing you our third hour this Tuesday morning on the 24th of June, 2025, on 92.7 FM, WMAP. Dave Bowman joins us throughout the day, and in this hour of a Tuesday, it's always Dave Does History. On the show page at BillMick.com, we've got Seeking Peace is the headline. We also have links for you there to all of Dave's work, What the Frog, Dave Bowman Show, and Dave Does History, all there for you on the show page, so catch up with those as you can. And Dave, we are continuing Liberty 250 this week, and we're going to continue it through the 4th of July next year. Where are we going this morning, buddy?
In the wake of the Boston Massacre, which we talked about last week, Benjamin Franklin is easily the most famous American colonial in the entire world. He is also living in London, or at least based in London. He's been here since the wake of the Stamp Act incidents. His position is very simple. He is a loyal Englishman. He is also a colonial American. And he is doing everything he can to reconcile the two together. He believes that America needs the crown. He's very much a King George supporter. And while he has some problems with the people in Parliament, as a general rule, he believes that America needs England and England needs America. And he is going to do everything he can to reach across those issues to try and restore that relationship. His time in London is remarkable. Not only is he doing all of this negotiation, he's leading these delegations, but he is also, most famously, conducting a lot of scientific experiments. He is giving scientific lectures, and it's really remarkable. He actually continues to invent things while he's in England. He discovers why ships move slowly through canals. If you deepen the canals, they'll go faster. We don't have time to go through all the physics of that, but he actually discovers this and improves transportation in England. He wires the Parliament buildings and the government buildings in London for electric light, for lightning rods. And in fact, he's a believer that the lightning rod should have a pointed end, and it's after the American Revolution, in a fit of anger, that King George III will actually change all the English lightning rods to balls on tops instead of pointy ends, because he's mad about Benjamin Franklin. Franklin is really trying to reconcile the two, and he really, truly, and honestly believes, as an Englishman, that the two have to reconcile, that this has to be a good relationship. This is still the case with Franklin, even in the wake of the Boston Massacre. He thinks that this is just a mistake. This was just, as the trial showed, it was just a riot. We're one people, he keeps kind of pushing, and we've got to work through this. So how does a man who today is famous for being literally the first American, how does that happen? How do you go from this guy who truly, honestly, and deeply is committed to the idea of being English to a guy who not only helps draft the Declaration of Independence, but will later help draft the Constitution? A man who will become not just a advocate for revolution, but really in many ways a radical. What is it that pushes him to that? Well, the story starts after he arrives in London and he receives a mysterious package from back home. We'll tell you more about that in just a moment.
O'Galley Electric, one of our sponsors here on the program. It is hurricane season, folks. Still early in the season, still time for you to prepare, which is when you do it, before you're dealing with a storm. It takes a little time to get a Generac automatic home standby generator ready for your home, and Chris Hughes and the folks at O'Galley Electric ready to do that for you. They'll engineer it up and have you set to face the storm. when you get that Generac home standby generator, you get a 10-year Generac extended warranty, a 4G LTE device to control that generator, and your first maintenance visit at no additional cost. Terms and conditions apply. Call O'Galley Electric today. Get the process started. 321-366-0444, and be ready to withstand the storm with the Generac home standby generator from O'Galley Electric. Find them online at eg-electric.com, bringing you commercial and residential electric and generator services. Dave, so we're looking at Ben Franklin, and he is the first trans-American.
Yeah, we wouldn't quite put it that way, but as a complete and utter aside, those sorts of things are looked at much differently in 1770 than they are today, but we don't have time to get into that.
Yet he goes through a transformation, and it has to do with this package you were talking about.
Right. This package arrives. He receives it in the early 1700s. He actually gets this package in December of 1772. The package contains 12 letters written by then governor of Massachusetts, Thomas Hutchinson, who is the royal governor. And they are between Hutchinson and Andrew Oliver, who's his assistant. And they are shocking to Franklin. The problem with these letters is that they contain phrases like this. There must be an abridgment of what are called English liberties in colonial administration. In other words, Hutchinson is writing to his assistant that we have to suspend liberties. We have to suspend English rights in order to maintain colonial administration, the Crown's government. These people are getting out of hand, and we've got to rein them in. Now, Franklin sees this differently, I guess, than we do today. He sees this as an example that Parliament and the king are not the problem. The problem is people like Hutchinson who are getting too big for their britches back home. And so he takes these letters, he copies them, and he sends them back to Massachusetts to the leader of the house there in Massachusetts. And what he's trying to convince him is, look, the problem is Hutchinson. It's not Parliament. It's not the king that's trying to suppress our liberties. It's Thomas Hutchinson. Well, he makes it very clear when he sends these to Massachusetts. Look, don't publish these. This is just for you and I to know about, because we need to work with the Parliament and the king to get rid of Hutchinson. We need to get rid of the colonial administration and convince the king and Parliament that we can do it ourselves. We don't need them. And this is a good example of why. The problem is, of course, that in June of 1773, the letters get, leaked. And
well, when you send the email, you don't own it anymore.
No,
same thing.
Same idea. The letters get leaked. They get published in the newspapers. And, of course, the newspapers make their way across the Atlantic, where they are splashed all over the dailies in London and all over England. And of course, as part of this, Franklin's role will become known. You can't hide this. He becomes very well known to have been the person who not only obtained the letters, and no one is clear on exactly how he did that, but he's also the person that sent them to Massachusetts, leading to their publication, leading to this embarrassment for a royal governor, leading to this scandal. And it is a scandal. And I know it sounds kind of trite to us today, but this is a huge deal. Franklin is being eviscerated in the London papers. And more importantly, he's no longer welcome at parties. He's no longer welcomed at meetings. He's being basically ostracized by London society because of his involvement in this. How dare you do this? And in point of fact, Parliament is going to convene what they call a Privy Council for the express purpose of investigating this. And they are going to call Franklin before them, and he is going to have to answer for this. But of course, back home, other events are afoot, or I guess I should say a tea.
Our weekly dive into history. Dave Bowman joins us on Bill Mick Live.
Renewal by Anderson, bringing you our final hour of a Tuesday morning, which is Dave Does History, Liberty 250, and we're taking a look at Benjamin Franklin and his transformation from Tory to revolutionary, I guess. Dave, you said that the government had invoked a privy council to go after Franklin. What happened in that regard, and where's it taking us now?
We'll get there in just a moment, because we've got to go back to Boston. Now, this is one of the largest events in the American Revolutionary War history, but we've got 8 minutes to talk about it. So we're going to kind of compress this and let you know some of the basic ideas here, because they are going to relate to Benjamin Franklin and his transformation.
Okay.
By 1773, England had a huge problem. Great Britain had a huge problem. That problem was known as the East India Tea Company, which was responsible for all the tea coming from India to the rest of the empire. The company was so mismanaged and so bloated that it was about to go under. And this is where almost the invention of the phrase comes from, too big to fail. If it went under, the government, which was already having problems because of the 7 Years' War, was going to have problems as well. And so the British government literally bails out the East India Tea Company with this Tea Act, which on the surface of it makes sense. The idea here is we're going to cut the price of our tea so low that even with the tax that we have on tea, the colonials will want to buy East India tea because it's cheaper than the smuggled tea. And that will help out the East India Tea Company. It'll help out the government. It'll get rid of all this tea that we have, this glut of tea that we have. And of course, this results in what we call the Boston Tea Party. The problem is that and you will hear this argument all the time. Well, the tea was cheaper than the smuggled tea, so the colonials were dumb to dump the tea. The problem is that there's really 4 issues here. Number one, if the colonials allow this tea tax to go into place and this tea from the East India Company to come in and be purchased by Americans at a cheaper rate, it will reinforce Parliament's proclaimed right to impose whatever taxes they want. In other words, it's not the tea, it's the tax that's the problem. If you charge more for the tea and do away with the tax, maybe we could talk about this. Number 2, and perhaps most importantly, this would have put smuggling merchants, if it had worked, it would have put American smuggling merchants, tea merchants, out of business because it would have undercut their business. So people like John Adams, Sam Adams, and a few others could have been financially damaged. More importantly, it would have raised taxes, collections, for the government there that was already saying things like, we've got to abridge your liberties, we've got to continue to raise taxes, we've got to do these things. And most importantly, it would continue to fund those army regiments that they were forcing the Bostonians to quarter, and would have continued those troops being able to operate. And so, of course, these 4 factors lead to what is known as, on December 16th, 1773, while Franklin is being eviscerated in the newspapers in London, the Boston Tea Party, where the Sons of Liberty, in a very structured, this is not a chaotic riot, by the way. This is a very structured, almost military precision event, go down to those docks in Boston and toss about 90,000 pounds worth of tea into the harbor. Ben Franklin gets the news over in London, and he thinks to himself, well, even in the midst of everything that's happening to me, I think this may be too far. And we'll talk about it more in a moment.
Renewal by Anderson, bringing you the hour. It is their 30th anniversary, and you get the benefit. Buy one, get one, 30% off windows or patio doors. Terms and conditions do apply. Go to bestwindowsflorida.com, see what that's about, and you can call Renewal by Anderson today. Get your free design consultation scheduled for your home. Dial pound 250, say Best Windows, and be connected in seconds. You get an option to receive a one-time auto-dial text from iHeartMedia when you do that. The acclaimed windows and doors from Renewal by Anderson bring you unmatched strength and longevity, made of Fibrex, twice as strong as vinyl, doesn't warp, degrade, crack like vinyl windows will do. They're impact resistant and rated hurricane-wise to your zip code. They're energy efficient, saving you money on your energy cost in your home, and they also reduce noise, giving you that in-home environment you want, where the noise in the home is from the home, not from outside. Get peace of mind with acclaimed impact windows and doors from Renewal by Anderson. Online at bestwindowsflorida.com or call pound 250, license number CGC 1527613. So even in spite of his persecution, Franklin's saying this was a bad idea. This is something that my fellow colonials should not have done.
No, he thinks this has gone way too far. He's concerned that it's going to hurt the overall cause, and most importantly, he's really concerned now that Parliament is starting to show itself, you know, I mean, when he sent those letters to Massachusetts, he was convinced that the problem was Hutchinson. But the last few months, of course, have convinced him that, well, maybe it is Parliament. And he's concerned now that Parliament is going to use this Boston Tea Party, and the others as well, as an excuse to punish the colonials. And, of course, that is what's going to come to pass. Franklin actually proposes that Massachusetts, the colony of Massachusetts, should actually refund the East India Tea Company the 90,000 pounds that they're out with this tea. Now, this is of course, this isn't going to go very far in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is going to say, no. But even stranger, I guess, in a way, is it really puts him at odds, this suggestion. It angers the Crown as well. King George doesn't like this suggestion. He thinks that will allow them to get away with this, and we're not going to have that. So now he's caught in the middle. Now he's mad. The Crown is mad at him. Parliament is mad at him. The newspapers are mad at him. And in fact, the patriots back home are mad at him because he's daring to propose compromise, even in the face of all of this stuff that's going on. And of course,
sounds like he's getting ready to be a man without a country. It
kind of sounds that way, doesn't it? And of course, the problem is that Britain is going to come out with their coercive acts. They're going to punish Britain. And in January, they're going to get around to this Privy Council. And it's this 60 minutes in front of the Privy Council where Benjamin Franklin is going to be eviscerated. That 60 minutes is going to change the entire world, because when that 60 minutes is up, Ben Franklin will no longer be about compromise. He will become an American revolutionary.
That is going to be interesting. I say we're going to pick it up when we continue on the other side here.
We are.
Okay, very good. Franklin sounds much more tolerant than we may have thought him to be. Is that a reasonable assertion based on what
he starts out that way? I mean, he is very much an Englishman. He's very much an easygoing guy, and even in the discussions over the Declaration of Independence, we'll see some of that. We'll see some of that wisdom in the Constitutional Convention. He's very much a guy. He's very Donald Trumpish. He likes compromise. He likes the deal. But this 60 minutes in front of that Privy Council is going to destroy that. And he is going to become, like I said, he's going to become a revolutionary, not a reconciler.
And we get a look at that as we continue in moments on Bill Mick Live. You want to follow us on Instagram at that WMMB Radio. When we do continue, we let you in with your thoughts about Franklin and questions for Dave if you have them at 321-768-1240. Dave Does History, a weekly event here on Bill Mick Live. Pick up his podcast. Also, on the iHeartRadio app, he'll have this one posted probably before I do today, maybe a little after. We're back in a moment.
It's easy to get your ideas in play. Call Bill at 321-768-1240.
Well, you're not calling Bill as much as you're calling Dave, because it is Dave Does History on Bill Mick Live. And this hour, brought to you by Renewal by Anderson. You've got the number to weigh in if you like. So, Franklin in front of the Privy Council, Dave, and he's about to be thoroughly bludgeoned.
In so many ways. In early January of 1774, the Parliament passes what are known as the Coercive Acts, specifically to punish Massachusetts where the Tea Party has happened. Oddly enough, they didn't pass one for North Carolina where there was another Tea Party as well, but we'll skip over that for now. The Coercive Acts actually closed the port of Boston, revokes their colonial charter. In other words, this is now a direct rule of the Crown and Parliament. And, of course, it inserts more troops into Boston with the idea of, again, intimidating these people. In the meantime, Governor Hutchinson has had to leave because he's been humiliated by the publishing of these letters and the realization by the people that he's in favor of doing away with their rights. In January, late January 29th of 1774, the Privy Council is called. Now, ostensibly, it is to investigate Governor Hutchinson. But Benjamin Franklin is called to stand before this council. And as it's hard to explain because we don't do things like this here. But the Chief Justice, the Solicitor General of the Privy Council, takes this opportunity to turn this whole thing around. Instead of investigating Hutchinson and why he would say such a damning thing, instead of investigating his leadership of Massachusetts, this all becomes about Benjamin Franklin and his release of these letters. Now, again, to us, they seem trivial and trite, but in England at that point, it is a huge scandal. And in the wake of the Boston Tea Party, with all that's going on, and the fact that Franklin has tried to mediate this instead of coming down on the clear side of the Parliament government, everybody's mad at him. And the Solicitor General takes 60 minutes and just absolutely blasts Franklin. He calls him a traitor. He calls him a fool. He refers to him as a thief, implying that he stole the letters. And he is just ripping into Franklin. In fact, we're told by the people who were there that the Solicitor General's attack on Franklin was absolutely, and I hate to use this word, but it was unprecedented. It had never been like that before, certainly not for someone who wasn't accused of a heinous or capital crime. There were people who were embarrassed by it, but nobody, none of the other privy councilors, nobody in the audience, nobody put a stop to it. They just let it go on. And the more it goes on and on and on, the more it becomes very personal, very vindictive, very angry, very rude. Franklin becomes more and more stoic. In this time in front of this Privy Council, he never says a single word, not one. He stands stock still. Imagine that. I mean, he's an old guy, and standing for an hour hurts. I can tell you that myself. He doesn't move. His fists are clenched. His face is just solid as a mask. And he listens to this go on and on and on. And when it's done, he turns on his heels and he walks out. Within weeks, he's done. He's going to sail back to America, And within a year, he's going to be a leading revolutionary. He will be helping to draft. He will be on the draft committee for the Declaration of Independence. And yes, he's still Ben Franklin, so he still has this, conciliatory, hey, let's, the art of the deal kind of thing. But he is literally going to become one of the chief architects of the revolution. And of course, later on, he will become one of the leading figures in the Constitutional Convention in generating our government. This 60 minutes, you have to wonder in some ways. I mean, if the Solicitor General had just said, okay, we're here to talk about Hutchinson and what happened, and left it at that, maybe things go differently. Maybe Benjamin Franklin continues to be a conciliatory figure. Maybe he continues to be someone who's trying to work through things. But by literally throwing Franklin under the bus, he changes history. And when Franklin puts his mind to things, as we all already know from his scientific experiments and the likes of that, when he puts his mind to accomplishing something, nothing gets in his way, and he will succeed. And Benjamin Franklin, the first American, as he's often referred to, walked out of that Privy Council no longer an Englishman, no longer loyal to the king, understanding now that, hey, maybe it wasn't Hutchinson, it was Parliament all along. And from henceforth and forevermore, I will be an American, and I will do everything I can to make sure that America comes first.
You want in, it's 321-768-1240, and we pick the conversation up in 1 minute on WMMP. Bringing our Tuesday and Dave Does History for this week to a close. Dave, when they humiliated Franklin like this, he didn't speak to defend himself, but I guess he knew at that point he had a right to remain silent. We didn't figure it out till 63, 64, 1963, 64. Was there a key moment? Was it just this 60 minutes and what happened there? Is it a culmination? Did Franklin ever speak to why this was his change?
Why he remained silent?
No. Why all of a sudden now I'm a revolutionary? Well,
it is clearly this change. It's a realization in his mind, because again, up to this point, he's thinking this is individuals. This is people like Hutchinson and Andrew Oliver who are lunatics. I mean, to borrow a phrase from the earlier in hours, they're the mad mullahs of Massachusetts. I mean, these are the people who are trying to violate our rights. He doesn't believe that it's Parliament. He doesn't believe that it's the king. But this incident changes his mind. And the fact that neither side is willing to listen to any kind of compromise over the Tea Party is, in his mind, becomes proof that these people are, as the king will say, it has to come to blows. The coercive acts have made it clear that the Parliament is no longer interested in negotiating anything. They are going to enforce themselves as they are, as the rulers of the American people, and your rights as Englishmen are null and void. We don't care about them. We are, as Hutchinson said, going to abridge them. And of course, that's highly offensive to Franklin, who considered himself an Englishman. And now he sees that these people are lying to him and have misled him. And
that he's being considered a lesser class of citizen.
Right. And there's that. And then being accused of being a thief and a fool and a traitor. Okay, you're going to accuse me of it. Well, then I'm going to go be one.
He wanted peace. He tried to get it. He couldn't. And
I think there's some lessons.
The party's unwilling to compromise. You can't reach an agreement. And it's just like Congress.
Right. I think there's some lessons in that, and in the idea that, yes, you should always strive for peace. You should always strive for the deal. But there comes a point of no return. And if you're not getting anywhere, that's when you have to take action. And Franklin, to his credit, didn't dither about that. Once he came to that moment, it was no longer a, well, maybe, should I, what's the best way? It was full-on revolutionary, and he was ready to go.
Were the other colonials surprised at his turn? That they say, this wasn't you, Ben. What are you doing now?
No, I don't think they're surprised by it. They're pleased by it, because it's like every other revolutionary in the American Revolution has to come to that moment. Everybody is not Sam Adams. Everybody is not a member of the Sons of Liberty. Everybody takes time. Even John Adams. I mean, he defended the soldiers from the Boston Massacre because he believed that was right. Would he have done that 20 years later? It's hard to say for sure. I think he would have, but everybody has that transformational moment that takes them from where they were to where they are going to be. And I think in Franklin's case, it was just, if we're talking about Isaac and Ebenezer and Charles, maybe it's not that big of a deal. But when you're talking about arguably the most famous man in the world, Weldon, the Solicitor General, should have handled that differently, but he didn't. And in doing so, he changed history.
I wonder if there were any ramifications for him, or was the Crown and Parliament all about, hey, you did that, you did it well. That's what we needed to have you do.
No, for the most part, this was planned. It was scripted. It was actually what they wanted. Thinking that if they humiliated him, he would go along with what they wanted. They didn't realize that if they humiliated him like that, they were going to make him an enemy.
How interesting is that? As you look back at this part of history, a key turning point for the revolution?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without Ben Franklin, does it happen? Sure. Does it happen successfully? I don't know. I think you need Ben Franklin. You have to have the most famous man in the world.
How different is it if the Crown turns him into a stronger ally as opposed to now an opponent?
Yeah, and that's the real question, and it's why these kind of moments, you wonder if you could go back in time, if you could get the DeLorean and you could go back to that moment. Do you warn the Solicitor General and say, hey, you really don't want to do that, or do you just let him do it? It's the final countdown all over again. Do we stop it or do we let it happen? Because for us, it worked out the right way. For England, not so much.
Yeah, that's true. Very interesting look this week, Dave, and I appreciate you doing all the work it takes to get there. What are we looking at next week?
Next week, we start delving into the Intolerant Acts, what Britain actually does, and the First Continental Congress, where we start reacting to what Britain is doing, and our unity as a nation is born.
We continue to build up to Liberty 250 next Tuesday with Dave Does History on Bill Mick Live. Dave, thanks for taking the time. In spite of the computer and other difficulties, we got through it. I appreciate your time on these Tuesdays. Go enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be listening for you on those links that are posted at BillMick.com today.
We'll see you next week.